Decoding thoughts and inner voice. Explanations and debunking the misconceptions. It is a challenge to decode thoughts and the inner voice, hence the need for an equally challenging invention to match. As a lot of issues must be addressed, does this book and the first book, Thoughts to Word or Audio, effectively address the following obstacles to decoding thoughts? Misunderstanding of the human system. The complexity of the brain as a hindrance to the decoding of thoughts. The need to record both in space and time and the shortfalls of all current methods. The brain's ability to process 600 thoughts per minute and the inability of the current methods to address this. A lack of a holistic approach to decoding thoughts. Misunderstanding of the structure and mechanism of the brain. Other things, like emotions and other experiences, can't be explained by simply looking at brain activity and neuron activity. Explanations and debunking the misconceptions. I argued in the first book that to be able to decode what a person is thinking at a given time, a different approach must be adopted. One where the shift is from looking for the area where the brain activity occurs, to the need to identify what neurons were firing at a particular point in both space and time. I argued that this is possible if you incorporate the delayed time-space continuum mechanism. One that stipulates that it is possible to revisit a place and point in time and manipulate the situation, to replay exactly what happened then. But now so that current events can be superimposed on top of that event and all recorded as if all just happened at that point in time. In the first book, Thoughts to Word or Audio, for argument's sake, I introduced some weird working hypotheses. But one relevant here is one that states that it is possible to employ a technique called word search. A situation where a person is given a recreated scenario in order to make the person say words we want to hear. Then record these. Then use the delayed time-space technique to revert to a point in time and superimpose what we have recorded through the use of word search. Then superimpose on events revisited. Events that had already happened. Then record the two as if both were happening at that moment in time. For example, a fight between lovers where the man's word-searched words are used. Ones which were obtained somehow, for example, where he was made angry and due to the pain at the time, cursed hard, threatening to kill the abuser. Then the cursings are recorded and mixed with the scene visited in time when he fought with his wife, making it look like he was threatening his girlfriend to anyone who hears the recordings, with the woman ending up disappearing, etc. The advantage of this method of superimposing two situations together as above is that it makes it possible to record the first person's voice, events, speech, and the brain light wave pattern or shape as well as the shape of the sound waves at the specific point, place and time, then decode these as a sample. Then go back to that point and make the third person be synchronized to the subject and everything recreated with the third person's brain light waves pattern, sound wave pattern, and everything else recorded and both compared to be able to compare and decode what the person heard as inner voice and his thoughts, etc. at that point and place in time. This can be repeated until the results all match. In short, this delayed time-space continuum enables the recreation of exact situations and replay them over and over again until you have a definite answer and accurate decoding of events, thoughts, and what transpired at that point. I made some working assumptions even though I believe that they are facts, but just for argument's sake to keep an open mind and give you a chance to rethink all this and contribute as well. I believe that the human body has two systems, one which we know and a hidden internal one that works in opposite or in reverse, meaning that there is an internal microphone, speaker, brain, transducers or wave converter, etc. and a hint to this is the inner voice. A human body is a perfect system. We know that every perfect system according to Newton's laws has two forces, a direct force with an equal but opposing force. That means every outward force, be it a sound wave, is accompanied by an opposite but equal force that operates in the other direction as an inward force. This means two waves are produced each time we speak, but the other one is converted into a different but equal wave form, meaning into light waves that are equal as they occupy the same area of the brain and often, another working assumption, have the same pattern. So, when a sound wave is an output wave, then light waves of the same magnitude or frequency are input to the inner system. The body needs and has several transducers that automatically convert different waves into several forms to send one outward and the other inward to the internal system at the same time as a way to balance the perfect system. For example, sound waves go out when we speak, but these same waves are converted instantly to light waves as an equal but opposing force that goes inward to the second inner secret system. But when the light waves reach the internal secret system of the body, the processes are reversed and then continued. Now the light waves are converted back to sound waves from the inner secret system to the human system. The very thing you know as the inner voice. The very reason why we hear the voice in our heads. Since the brain can only act on our own voice when the light waves are converted to sound waves, a language we can understand, we hear our voice, inner voice, as the sound inside can only be ours. This is true in that if a voice of a person is replayed to that person deep in the ear as the person is sleeping, the body converts that artificial inner voice into the dreams of that person. But if someone's voice is replayed in the deep ear as the person is sleeping, that person might not dream about that and might wake up scared and shaken. In addition, the method assumes it is possible to synthesize speech from brain neural activity patterns through simulated movements of the vocal tract to generate speech. Sound wave patterns when thinking without talking are similar to spoken language ones. The invention will therefore enable the collection of data and samples over time to create a definite way of decoding thoughts and inner voice by creating reference stencils to use to decode thoughts. My invention is based on the idea that we need three but all linked systems in each human body to be able to decode thoughts and inner voices, even dreams. The body's perfect system, therefore, must include the system we know, its inner hidden secret system, and an additional artificial digital inside system that imitates and is synchronized to the body's own inner secret system, which the inner voice is part of. That brings me to the next point. For any serious people in robotics who want to create a robot that can be like a human being, they must input or use 3 or even more digital life systems just in one robot, see Fig 1. If humans are alive and clever as they are because of multiple systems inside them, then it is absurd to just use one human system in robots. Would you be surprised that there are no clever robots? But it's not just inputting the 3 systems inside robots, but creating a viciously linked and continuous cycle with equal and opposing systems. One that has transducers that converts waves to different forms depending on their direction of movements, whether inward or outward. If sound waves are outputted, then the same waves are converted to light waves as part of electromagnetic waves and inputted. But when light waves reach inside, they are converted back in the inner secret system back to us as sound waves. The inner voice we hear. We don't hear inner voices when we speak because the light waves are converted to electromagnetic waves that are absorbed inside with only weak vibrations being outputted. But an interesting point to note here is that when we think but not speak, that means there are no sound waves produced, so 2 sets of light waves are produced that go both to the inner system, with one converted to electromagnetic waves that are absorbed and the other reverted to our system as sound waves. The inner voice we can hear. I argued that if anyone is to achieve decoding thoughts and the inner voice and even dreams, a 3-system function is mandatory. I argued that humans already have a 2-function system where they have everything as double. The brain and nervous system we know, and an identical but hidden secret internal system of which the inner voice is the clue we know. Thirdly, we must have an artificial one, a digital one that we can learn from, manipulate through electromagnetic nerve tampering and stimulation to be able to understand without doubt what people think at any given point in time. If anyone is serious about robotics, I propose they use my invention, which is the only way possible. All 3 systems in robots, all digital as in artificial intelligence, must work together as one. See Fig 1 below. Debunking the so-called obstacles in decoding thoughts. Difficulties in decoding thoughts. The complexity of the brain is a hindrance to decoding thoughts. The brain is so complex and connected, and with billion neurons all linked together, that it would be difficult to decode all these thoughts with modern techniques, etc. All flawed current methods look at where the brain activity is occurring instead of what neurons are firing. I doubt a few electrodes or sensors on top of the brain would be able to make you decode thoughts, etc. The functional magnetic resonance imaging fMRI is spatial and lacks the time part as in time-space. So on its own might not accurately identify the thoughts at the time in question. Then all this becomes a guess and eliminate troubleshooting method. The current methods look at areas of operation of neurons or activity within the brain. They identify where the activity is occurring and then try to map that area and the brain's electrical activity to decode what a person is thinking. That means these methods lacks the time-space requirement. Current methods don't address the need to record both in space and time. But do you know a brain is capable of thinking above 600 thoughts per minute? We as humans think faster than we speak, which is around 150 words per minute. That means per minute, that is in 60 seconds, a brain can think about 600 items, thoughts, images, memories, etc. 60 seconds is a long time, and given the complexities of the brain, one can argue that it is difficult to know exactly what one is thinking unless a method is used that can measure in both space and time. That alone renders all current methods obsolete or not fit for the task. All current methods fulfill one of the requirements, either fulfilling the space requirement as in the use of functional magnetic resonance imaging fMRI or the electroencephalography EEG that tries to measure the electric activity of the brain in terms of time. A lack of a holistic approach to decoding thoughts. Current methods don't link between the firing neurons, the space this occurs, the patterns produced, and the intended actions or messages sent. Misunderstanding of the structure and mechanism of the brain. I argued in my first book, Thoughts to Word or Audio, that the human body is so complex that we don't really know what it is made up of until now.